Yeah.
All right, send it, Brannely.
Yeah. That's all nutrition is just principles and methods. It's like once you understand the basics, and once you understand just the normal principles, you can adjust the methods to whatever fits you best as long as you adhere to those principles. So I think where everybody goes wrong though is they get caught up in the methods. So they get caught up in like the flashy stuff, like, oh, like the low carb diet's the most, that's the best way to lose fat. When in all reality, it's just, if you look back at the principles of it, it's like, oh, we're actually just reducing calories, like that's the magic behind it. But exactly. I think you got to have those basics down first.
For sure. And hey, welcome everybody. As you've jumped in, we are going to be talking a little bit more about nutrition. You all know it. Welcome to the Generation RX podcast. Here, Brannely and I are all about educating the youth, the parents, the other educators out there, hopefully maybe even other health professionals that pop around this podcast, kind of find something useful to help, whoever it is. But let's just come together. And actually today we've got a really special one. I know the last episode that Brannely and I talked a lot about our intros. We kind of introduced who we were, our journey from, what and who we were as kind of youth and where we are now as adults and what we've learned up to this point. Brannely's, he's just a few years, behind me. I just turned 31.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I've got gray in my beard. I just turned 31, so I'm an old man. It's crazy. I was talking to my mom, and I remember growing up, and I had an uncle, and I remember he turned 35, and in my head, I'm like, dude, you are old. And now I'm like 31, and I'm like, I'm not that old. What are you talking about? But it pays to take care of yourself. But today, everybody, we're going to go, Brannely and I are both going to take separate little moments. One's, Brannely's probably going to go through his. I'll sit back and listen, probably pose a couple questions. But we're each going to go over our history of weight loss, but also our history where we kind of went through different phases in life, where we tried, with the knowledge we had at certain points, the knowledge of how maybe we navigated our weight loss goals or our fitness goals as well, especially performance, since Brannely and I both played sports, maybe how we kind of had to figure it out, or maybe what mentors we had. But without further ado, I'm going to let Brannely take the floor right now and kind of talk about his journey and his knowledge gain to this point.
Yeah. So it's my weight loss journey. It's kind of crazy. Because as we discussed in the last episode, I started out, as an overweight kid, much like you did. Mm-hmm. And so like really whenever it comes to nutrition and fitness, my number one focus has always been like, okay, how can I like find a comfortable body composition where I'm lean enough to, look good with my shirt off, but also like I want to build muscle and look big as well too. But like my number one focus is always like, how can I be lean? How can I stay lean? And I think that comes from, my past from when I was a child, being overweight and everything like that. So I've kind of had like a weird path with weight loss. It's kind of been a yo-yo path, as much as I hate to admit it. But I think we spoke about this in the last episode a little bit. My first like real actual attempt at losing weight was when I was going into track season my senior year. And I had bulked up pretty heavily that winter to about 210 or whatever. And I didn't know anything about nutrition, didn't know anything about weight loss. So I just went straight into like intermittent fasting, which is what I saw online, what everybody else was doing. And like, I did lose quite a bit of weight doing it that way, but I wasn't losing weight from the way I thought I was. Kind of what we were talking about, like principles and methods. I got caught up in the methods. Like I thought the mechanism was like that intermittent fasting was this crazy magical tool to burn fat and, never actually gain any weight. And you could eat it whatever you want, as long as it was in your time window. When all reality, it was just a way to help me like eat less food overall. But being the naive, younger kid that I was at the time, I thought it was because fasting was some sort of magic. And it wasn't. And I learned that really quick. So, and then after that, I kind of put some more weight on afterwards, and I got back up to 200. But at that point, it was my freshman year of college, and that usually happens to everybody their first year at school. And then I kind of, yeah, exactly. Except it was like a freshman, 30 for me. But I just remember I was like, I think the point it really snapped for me when I was in college, I got back up to 200. Me and my buddy wanted me to go out with him, and he's like, let's just go out and hit the bar or whatever. And I was like, trying on like multiple different outfits because I hated all my clothes and how they fit at the time. I was just like super uncomfortable in them. And at that point, I like looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, all right, you're getting pretty fat. It's time to lose weight again. And I at this point, I still nothing about it. I didn't, I wasn't studying nutrition or anything at the time. I was like really heavy into the CrossFit community. And at that time, the whole messaging was like low carb, keto, Atkins, like paleo diet, like basically carbs and sugar are the devil. They make everybody fat. And as long as you don't eat them, you'll be fine. So I got super into like low carb and keto. I actually got like deathly terrified of carbs. Like I remember I was like eating less than 50 grams a day. Again, lost a ton of weight, but at the same time, my performance on the field and in the gym really suffered from that. I remember I used to get like lightheaded at practice and almost passed out a couple of times just because I had no carbs at all. Which if you know anything about sports nutrition, they're one of your body's main fuel sources, especially for something like football or weightlifting. You need carbs to sustain performance. So while I lost a bunch of weight, I think I got down to, by the end of football season, I got down to like 175. And then later, I mean, I continued that into the winter as well too. And I think the lightest I ever got was about 165. And at that point, it was like hard stop. Now you're too light. Go back into bulk mode. Got fat again because I didn't know how to bulk properly. And then the third time I got fat again, I was like, I knew a lot more about nutrition. So then I got into tracking macros and calories. And then, of course, as I like to do, I got overly obsessed with that and pretty much couldn't eat a single thing without tracking it. Like I remember my buddy gave me an almond one time. I had to track like one almond in my calorie tracker because it was just I was super obsessed with it. So I had like this weird balance of like gaining a bunch of weight and then taking extreme measures to lose a bunch of weight and getting like overly obsessive, but with some sort of new method, quitting that, gaining weight again, and kind of bouncing back and forth. So that's where I'm at right now. And that kind of leads me to where I'm at today. I just got done bulking again. Was a lot more restrictive with it this time. So I didn't just go all out, eat whatever the heck I wanted. So now I'm going to start cutting back the weight again a little bit, but I'm taking a little bit of a different approach. We can kind of get into that a little bit later, but that's kind of my history. It's been like an unhealthy balance of get fat, lose weight, get fat, lose weight. So
yeah, from just hearing your story, it just sounds like a lot of hills and valleys.
Yeah.
A lot of ups and it's what's really unfortunate too. And our examples are not the only ones out there. There's thousands, hopefully not millions, but there's thousands of kids out there probably like they are going through the same things. They feel the same way we did. They look at themselves the same way. And there's no real mentor out there, and this internet now is such a vast thing. And when we continually put our bodies through those hills and valleys, it does such a number on how the body should be naturally processing let's just say the calories and the energy. Because at the end of the day, guys, I had to be reminded of this by another professional I follow is we got to remember like calories are not the devil. Okay. A calorie at its very most scientific base form is a unit of energy. It's a unit of thermic energy. Thermic being when we take that energy in, our body heats up to process it. And that's about as caveman as I can make that. Okay. So the calorie is not the devil. It's not. Now, eating too much, being excess, that is where we start to go overboard. And we can go in excess, like, Brannely just talked about, he did an actual dedicated bulk, not a dirty bulk. Anyone out there, if you're doing a dirty bulk, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna suffer the consequences later because you're not gonna actually put on as much muscle as you're intending to. Now, Brannely, real quick on that follow-up with the bulk that you just kind of wrap. How long were you in that bulk for?
Oh man, I was bulking since September to January. So I don't know how long that is. That's like 5-6 months.
About 6 months. Okay, cool.
6 months. Yeah, it was a longer process. I think my overall like caloric surplus, so eating over my maintenance amount of calories or however much energy my body needs to sustain its just normal weight, I think I was only in like a 200 to 300 caloric surplus. So it wasn't very much, but I went from about like 190 to 200 is where I'm at right now. So about 10 pounds in 6 months, which is like a little less than 2 pounds a month, which is a very, very slow
Yeah.
rate for weight gain. Um, Even now though, this is a weird thing about it too. I always thought like being 200 pounds would be awesome, like, oh, like once I hit 200 pounds, I'm like jacked. I actually am not a fan of it. Not at all. I'm not
How
like
do you
my clothes don't fit right.
how do your joints feel?
Joints are a little I wouldn't say they're like super sore, but I just feel like normal movements that I used to be able to do like are just so much harder. Like pull-ups and push-ups in the gym, I can't bust them out like I used to.
Mhm.
Running is like awful. Um,
Right.
so yeah, it's just like, and that's another thing too, is the more you like work with this stuff, the more you realize like what weight you're comfortable at.
Right. What
But
the optimal way, the way I look at it and the way I've had to learn it, because I've gone through those dedicated bulks, drawing it back, especially when I'm getting closer to sport and performance time, I'll draw that weight back. You
mhm,
find that when you're at that weight, you so if I do a dedicated bulk, like I am in a bulk mindset mode, I'm going to take 3 months to get to the weight that I kind of want to be at, which might seem kind of accelerated. Um, but that's also because after that 6 months, I've got to get ready for some type of event. So I need to draw down. So I'll take 3 months to get up to the weight that I want to be. And then I take another 3 months to stabilize that,
mm,
to really get the body to acclimatize to that size. Because within that other 3 months, and again, that still seems kind of short to a lot of people out there that are probably going to listen to this, but you want my mindset's always been build up to it and then fill out. Because it's one thing to build up and you might be a little puffy, but the thing is, if you can build up, get that size, that weight, and then in the next 3 months, if you can fill out the muscle density, and then once you go into a drawdown, that muscle density, most of that will remain as you draw it down. So
mhm.
it's just food for thought for a lot of people out there from the 2 or 3 times that I've done like a very methodical, dedicated bulk. Um, But I want to come back to something you said at the very, very, very beginning, about methods, mechanisms, and principles. Guys, just like Brannely went over, like IF is out there, you've got keto stickers and ads, and you've got the low carb talk. Here's the thing, guys, that mechanism or that thing that's being toted or advertised, you got to realize, don't get distracted like that, like it's a Lambo. Like the mechanism may be the vehicle, but Brainley brought up a really good thing, the principle. We're going to go into the principles here after I get done kind of with my thing, or I'll bring it up a little bit. Like, don't get distracted by these flashy fad terms like it's the Lambo zipping by on the street. Sure, that may get somebody by to something from A to B pretty quick, but the principles taught within that quick time frame are not going to be what can sustain you in the longevity. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't done low carb and keto, but I've done that to on a short, very duration, typically like 4 to 6 weeks. I'll do a quick kind of recomp drawback, and then I'm back into programming. Most likely, it's because
Mhm.
my weight has hit like a plateau, and if I had stayed in the same track mentally, it would have worn on me. So I just needed to spice it up. So again, I have done a short spurt of keto low carb. Okay, so I'm throwing that one out there. I'm going to be honest about it. Okay, so nobody pitchfork me.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare I? So I think I know what I'm talking about. But nah, dude, it's so frustrating. But at the same time, we have to realize that there's just a lot of it's very foggy out there. It's very foggy when it
Mhm.
comes to this because everybody wants to get blinded by the Lambo. It's just
Yeah.
that's flashy, man. It's flashy and it's fast. And in this day and age where, our attention span now is pretty much just slightly longer than a goldfish, it's
Mhm.
harder for a lot of people, especially for kids. I mean, I think I brought it up last time, but I train two youth performance groups with Studio 573 here in town. And while the 14 and 15-year-olds are a little better, let's just say like the 10 to 12-year-olds, bro, I just have to like turn my patience knob up just like one more notch
Mhm.
and realize that like, look, I need to keep their attention. I need to keep them on task. And so for a lot of people, especially from a younger age, to try to think of the longevity on something, unless they're in like a very severe health detriment, like they are the living embodiment of child obesity. And if they understand and grasp like, hey, I have to fix this. And hopefully they have people in their corner that are like, cheerleading them, but if they're on their own, and I am working with a young man that he's pretty much, it's me. I am like, while he's got positive voices, there's a lot of weight on my shoulders to help this young man really like break open, his shell and, grow from being that caterpillar to a butterfly. Like it's going to take a lot of work, but it's there. But I'm glad I can be that voice of intelligence and reason to be like, okay, hey, here's the path. This is what we're doing. And here are the principles. The principles, people, are what we're going to talk about. So regardless of the mechanism, like Brannely said, they all in their own way will work. Most nutrition plans will work if you are consistent and if you take the time to understand the principles. Like carbs really are demonized. They're demonized everywhere. And they're like, well, if I want to drop this weight, I need to just cut carbs. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's take the entire main energy source that our body can utilize and say, I'm going to kick you to the curb. Now, what we need to do, and what I'm going to go into with my journey, is what I learned very early is we can still have carbs. And we're going to have a later podcast, guys and gals, where we jump into like, what is a protein? What is a carb? And we're going to help you understand, like, what are the clean carb sources out there that you can have fun with, so that you don't have to feel like you're eating chicken, rice, broccoli. Like, trust me, like right now I'm in a mode where I'm dieting down for essentially a bodybuilding show, but like chicken, rice, broccoli sucks, guys. If you're having that every day, 3 times a day, like, guys, that's not fun. But if you need to do it, then you have to do it. But here's where we can go is when I started and I had my aha wake up moment. I don't like the way I feel. My joints hurt. My body hurts. I'm out of breath going up a flight or 2 of stairs, which is pathetic as a teenager. Like, you should, as young adults and teenagers, guys, you have this like continual burning energy engine inside of you. And it's not going to be till you're almost 25 where you feel like you've just been hit by a brick wall. Cause that was me. I turned 25 and it was like, oh, this hurts. Everything hurts. Okay. But what I learned is like, when I started changing my habits is I started drinking more water. That happened right off the bat, guys. I went from maybe having 4 glasses of water a day, and I slowly chipped away at it to where I was drinking a gallon a day. That helped the bloating go away. That helped my body process out junk. And it just made me feel better. It really did. Drinking water at least, 3/4 to a gallon a day as a youngster was perfect. On top of that, I cut a bunch of junk out. I realized that there is what I'm realizing, maybe they're not specific meals for a lot of you, but it's snacking. It's snacking and having a bunch of munchies in the house that mommy and daddy probably bring in and just stock some cupboards with munchies and cereals. I realized I was overeating way too much of that. Like, look, my favorite snack is graham crackers and peanut butter. Break the graham cracker, little peanut butter sandwich, guys. Let me tell you, I was eating way too much of that. Like, oh my goodness. And I was a serial killer. Serial killer, man. I could chase every meal with a big bowl of cereal. Guys, I'll tell you right now, as good as that tastes, it's too much. Way too much. So that was where I started, man. That was like my young adult kind of life is cleaned it up, increased a lot of the, the better foods that I could be eating, and I hydrated. I just learned to just love water. And even today, I don't care what temperature that water is at. I love water. It's helped me a lot, especially once I joined the military and I was operating within a lot of those mission sets. The water, hydrate or die. I mean, truly, that's what that comes down to. As I got older, as I was a young adult, like college age, a lot of those habits I kind of formed up in my young adult life, then carried over into like when I first started going to college. And really, I was still hydrating. The priority there was protein intake. I really didn't pay attention to like the other foods I was eating because my activity level had increased. I was doing a lot more. I had lost a lot of that chunkiness, and I was able to like, I was running more. I found a workout partner for the first time in my life, because in between, I want to say 14 to 18, I was solo. I mean, I took the strength class in high school that was offered, but I was pretty much solo. I really had nothing else, buddy that was in my corner as far as workouts went. Got to college, got a workout buddy, finally, had friends. That was nice. I got a girlfriend too, discovered that girls actually do like me back. That was awesome too,
There you go.
but going back to high school, while I had crushes on, girls and stuff, I hated the way I looked. I was not confident whatsoever, because I just didn't like my own skin. I didn't like how I fit in my clothes. I didn't, the way I looked. I hated, like, when I walked, I jiggled. That, like, even today, like, if I'm bulking and it gets to like a little too jiggly of a point, I'm like, all right, this ain't happening. No,
I'm that same way.
Mentally jacked me up. But yeah, I got to college, got workout buddy, so I got accountability. I found a level of accountability, prioritized protein intake, and I had a girlfriend. Dude, I was like good on all levels. I was feeling super froggy. Fast forward to finally getting married many years later, been in the military. I'm finishing up college at this point. And when I first got married, we had our kid, pretty much our first kid, soon after that. And guys, let me just tell you, like, get ready for when that happens, because once that kid comes into the mix, your world doesn't so much become about you and your spouse or your partner. It's like, hey, your priority is that kid, and then your whole world circles around that. And so I let myself go. And there's pictures on my Instagram that I'll continue to repost. Like, dude, I had a belly, had a belly back, and I had a nasty mustache, and I was probably weighing 220, 225 again, of just bad weight, and that's when I also discovered intermittent fasting, because I mean, this was my schedule. I got up early in the morning, I worked out, I had a full day of classes at college, went home, helped my wife with some stuff. Then I went to one of my part-time jobs, finished that up. As soon as I was done with that, then I went to go coach lacrosse if we were in season, because I was an assistant coach with the lacrosse team. And then maybe if I was on shift, I had a night shift job. Guys, I was hella busy my junior, senior year, like busy. I did not have time to do a bunch of meal prep. I didn't have time to like sit down and eat, 3, 4, even 5 meals. Like, it was just, that was not positive. Could I drink water? Yeah. Could I snack? Sure. Did I still prioritize protein? Of course. But I had let myself go just because of how busy it was. And I was maybe eating like 1 meal a day. So then I found intermittent fasting, just like Brannely did. The mechanism was flashy. I'll admit it. I was like, oh, cool. Like, I'm busy. He's busy. He says he can eat whatever he wants. At that point, I was like 25. I was like, I don't exactly agree with that one. That one, I was kind of like, I'm going to take that fluff out of there, But the point he was making was like, look, do you have to be 100% like as if you were like 100% tracking your macros? Not really. There's a little wiggle room with intermittent fasting because you're burning all the time. But you still need to keep it clean. So that's when it comes back to the principles, guys. What is the quality that you're intaking? Because the quality that you intake into your body is the quality of output that you will receive and be able to give, not only to yourself, but to others. Eat good, feel good. I'm going to say that just right off the bat. You eat good, you feel good, you're going to help everybody else around you. Yeah.
That's such a good point too. Because like kind of what I was talking about, like how, like keto and fasting aren't ideal, because I feel like it's both sides of the spectrum. It's like you got the people that say like keto or fasting or, paleo or whatever diet you want to throw in there. They're like, this is the only way to eat. This is the only way you can eat. And then you have the other side where people say none of that stuff works. Don't do any of that stuff at all. It's all just like hocus pocus or whatever. And they don't even acknowledge it. I think there's a time and place for everything, honestly.
Yeah.
Like you said, you went low carb for 2 to 4 weeks at a time and then kind of bounced back. When you understand like the principles that we're talking about, just the basics of nutrition, then like the methods and stuff, you can just kind of throw them in whenever you want, because you understand why they're working. And then, you can use them for what they are, and then you can kind of just discard them when you're done with them. But I think the important thing is to always have like that kind of like place of like balance that you come back to, you know, that you're comfortable with, that'll keep you in a good spot. Because like I'll even admit, like sometimes when I'm dieting like down super hard and I'm like trying to hit like a heavy weight loss goal or trying to get super lean, sometimes I will like fast, not because I want to like reap the benefits of fasting, but simply because like if I push my first meal off later in the day, I don't struggle with hunger as much. And when you're restricting your calories, that's one huge thing that you have to deal with is hunger. So like the method of fasting is like reducing your time window for eating. So like for a lot of people, they eat from like 1 to 9 p.m. and like that's their window, and they don't eat anything else outside of that window. For me, I was doing that just simply because like if I ate a meal at 6 a.m., then like 8 o'clock comes around and I'm hungry again, and all of a sudden like it's way easier for me to overeat on calories. So like there's a time and place for everything. Just like, you know, going on the low carb side, you know, if you want to cut back your calories, and cutting out carbs is the easiest way for you to do that without having to stress about it, then like, you know, go for it. But I think it's like when people get into the flashy stuff, like, oh, it's because like of your, you know, your insulin levels when you cut out your carbs, and that's why you're losing all this extra fat and stuff. It's like, no, it's like maybe a little bit, but not really. It's simply just because you found an easy way to cut back calories more, you know? So nothing wrong with the methods. It's just the messaging behind them is what's so confusing as well too, and it's so easy to get caught up in it. But when you understand like the basics, it's so easy to see through all that stuff and really understand why something works.
Right. Oh, that was such a good point. Yeah. Like when you understand the basics, and again, we're very excited because the next few episodes, that's what we're going to dive into, guys, is really the basics of looking at these principles and these, what we call macronutrients. So the macronutrients, the proteins, carbs, and fats, what they are and what they do to the body, and why they are so nutrient dense, and and how our body needs to utilize those within appropriate functions. Now, there will always be outliers out there, and maybe somebody listening to this is like, you are the outlier, and I get that. So don't ever take what we say as like we are the 110% expert, because again, there's still things we're learning, and there's still very unique cases. Like shoot, I talked to somebody in my DMs the other day on Instagram, and she is an adult, and she just barely became a type 1 diabetic due to cancer treatment. On top of that, she does not produce even natural creatine within her body. And so while the rest of us take like 5 grams a day just to be athletic and healthy, she's taking like 10 plus grams a day just to be stabilized. So again, that's an extreme outlier example. So again, just keep listening, guys, and pick up on the basics, and keep mastering those. And yeah, it's the message, just to bring it back. The messaging is, again, I think for a lot of professionals out there and a lot of people that truly, truly care, and they don't want to get wrapped up in the dollar sign, the messaging is the most frustrating part, especially for a lot of you out there that don't know enough yet. Is it's going to seem great. It's going to seem like this is just the thing, that you have to do. Oh, I have to cut carbs. And it's like, well, you really probably just got to clean it up and maybe just watch the snacking. A lot of times, like when I take on a client, I first get them working out. We get in a routine. I don't do anything crazy with the nutrition yet. I wait about anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. But what I have them do for at least a week or 2 weeks is I have them just journal or log or something what they are eating and when. And that usually gives me a really good snapshot into like what is really occurring. And 9 times out of 10, guys, you're just not eating enough protein and you're not hydrating enough. Like if you just kind of hit on those two things really early on, you'd be fine. Excuse me. And let me go back here.
That's a really important thing though, real quick. Is like for a lot of you guys, the simplest thing can have the biggest impact on where you're at. For example, like I remember the first time that I ever like actually made a change to what I was consuming, it like blew my mind on the impact that it had. And that was like cutting out soda. I guess like my first like efforted attempt at losing weight was when I did the fasting. But the first like health decision I made was cutting out soda. And I didn't know why soda was bad. It was just like someone told me soda was bad one time, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, well, I drink soda a lot and I look bad, so maybe that's something I should try out. Um, so like that was the first thing I cut out, and I didn't even know like I was cutting out all these extra calories and cutting out all this extra sugar and stuff, because like I used to drink like 4 or 5 like cherry Pepsis a day. Like that was like my go-to thing. And just by doing that, I lost like I think like 15 to 20 pounds just from doing that alone.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it right now and you don't like where you're at and you don't know what to do, kind of gather some awareness around like what you're doing regularly and see like what you can improve. Because like I promise you, when you're starting out, like little stuff like that, it goes such a long way. Like for you, Marcel, it was like drinking water was a huge difference maker for you. For me, it was cutting out soda. Like it doesn't have to be anything like life changing. It just has to be something small to start out with.
Yeah, it's that again is just such a good point, guys. Like not getting wrapped up in the messaging or how flashy something is, because a lot of those things are going to message to extremes. They're gonna message or put their wording around, oh, you've been doing this, well, you now need to do this, and this is how restrictive it's going to be. Like, guys, anytime I've done anything super restrictive for any amount of time, I like messes with my mind. My body feels like junk. Like I'm not happy. And if I'm not happy, those around me are not going to be happy, because then they got to put up with this a-hole right here, you know? But yeah, it's sometimes very simplistic changes. And so I wasn't a big soda drinker growing up. Just something about the taste of soda to me was like not appealing at all. My family drank soda. My younger brothers drank soda. Like it was just, I just did not like the taste.
And you're lucky. That's a lucky
I
feature.
no, yeah, and people have told me that, and it's just like, well, I mean, that's just the way it was. Like I remember somebody gave me a sip of like a Dr. Pepper or like a Coke or a Pepsi when I was really really young, and I just remember thinking like, yuck, like I don't like that, like I hated when my dad gave me ginger ale when I had an upset stomach. Like I was like, no, I don't want to drink that, whatever. But you know, here I'd say in the last 5 years for myself, um, I've bounced in and out of, just like you were saying, like tracking my macros really hard. Not to the point like you, like where I was worried about like one almond.
Yeah.
But I was still on a path where I love the details. Like I love just being able to be detailed about something. And when I have a plan, I will follow that said plan to a T as best I can. And so I got really wrapped up in like, oh, I have to track my macros. Well, here's a problem, guys. When your life is in 5 different ball fields and you're trying to like put a handle on family, kids, job 1, job 2, military obligations, like doing like tracking macros on top of that just felt like it became a 6th job. And while I was doing it, I was just stressed the whole time because of everything else. And so I almost there for a bit started having a negative, again, after everything I'd been through and everything I've overcome, I started almost creating a negative mindset around food again, which made it easier to do more than one cheat meal, made it easier to eat the not so clean food, just because I was already just like, screw it, like whatever. I'm already like, this is happening and this is happening, and whatever. So I had to step away from that. I finally just stepped away, and I said, you know what? I just need to go back to focusing on protein intake, because I was doing a certain goal at a time. I knew I needed energy. So I was still consuming carbs. I was being a little too loose on them, but I prioritized the protein. And that actually for many, many years, helped stabilize my weight for what it needed to be. I could perform. I didn't feel bad. For as busy as I was, I had to pick the path of least resistance. In the last 8 months to a year, as I've really dove in back into what I want to do, why I want to do it, I've revisited the intermittent fasting world that I did see a lot of success with, and that I understood, and I took time over the last 5-6 years to like re-look at and visit and see how the mechanisms worked and what will work. And I've come up with my own, what I call like functional fasting method, or functional fasted method. Is we're still in a mode of fasting, but we're doing it in a way that's very anabolic. We're doing it in a way where we're not just depleting ourselves for a massive amount of time throughout the day, but we've still got a very dedicated eating window. And that's because, guys, like, I'm up at 3:30 and it's go, go, go until I'm like, it's 7:30 where we're at here, guys. I've been up since 3:30. I've had little snacks and meals around my life, around what's going on, but not dedicated meals. So for me, what I've kind of developed for myself and many people is this functional fasted method where I'm still getting my macros, I'm still on plan, I've got the energy to accomplish everything I need to, but I'm not in this just depleted, poor state for like that 2/3 of my day, and it's helped myself. It's helped a bunch of people. I mean, I'm in the last 3 weeks, I've dieted down for this online show, like I brought in. But the thing is, I was on this plan pretty much for about 6 months before that. And I was able to drop that 15, 20 pounds initially to where I needed to be, so that once I decided to do this online show, I was already trending down. And now I'm on that dedicated plan to continue such. So it's been a really good ride. I've learned a lot, and especially prepping for this online show, like really learning about a lot about how the body feels and what it does when it is in such a depleted, starved state. And to think about, like, so like right now, guys, because I'm 4 or 5 weeks out from this online bodybuilding show, my carbs every day are below 100 grams, which, holy crap, the fact that some of you out there like are doing this willingly, like, I guess I am too. I mean, I decided to put myself in the running, but like,
Maybe like regularly is the better word for it.
right. Yeah. Regularly.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, I don't know how you guys function. Like, I'm literally hating life right now, like not being that energized. And I can feel like my workouts, I have to set a timer on my phone. My workouts are literally 40 to 45 minutes. And if that timer goes off and I'm not done, guess what? I am done. I'm done for that day, because my energy at that point is gone. I don't have any more. So,
wow. Yeah, we'll have to do like a specific episode on that then, so we can go over like that method a little bit deeper, or at least just cover the basics of it. We'll have to do an episode on that. Real quick, I thought this was an interesting point. You kind of hit on it, and I think I hit on it as well too. But this kind of goes into like a popular topic going around today. But like, when do you know that it's probably a good time to start making a change with your nutrition and your fitness? Because I think right now, and I always hate to bring this up because it's such a buzzword right now, but you have like the whole like body positivity movement going on, where it's like, just accept where you're at, and like, why do you need to change who you are? You should just love who you are and everything. And I think it's a good message at the surface level, but deep down inside, I think it's a lot of people just lying to themselves. And I know that's going to be really harsh, but like, let's kind of go over real quick. Like, is it okay to want to change yourself? Is it okay to want to get better? Is it okay to not feel good about yourself? Like, because I think some people feel bad for feeling bad about themselves, when in all reality, it's actually a really good indicator that, perhaps you aren't in alignment with where you want to be or what you want to do. And it's actually a great opportunity to grow, and to make a change. So,
man, dude, Brandon,
not to dive down a rabbit hole, but
no, this is gold, man. I really hope everyone makes it this far in the episode and really stars and shares this one. Like, this is going to be crucial, guys. I love, especially working with youth, but like going over mindset and this question of body positivity and self-love, self-image. Guys, one, you brought up, like, sometimes that's just kind of like, love yourself for who you are is sometimes used as somebody, nobody hate me for this, but copping out, just kind of saying like, I don't want to try. Now, there is a flip side to where, I've met men and women that look a certain way, and they're happy. They are genuinely happy. They are genuinely happy with what they're doing, how they're functioning, and how it's meeting the needs of their life. Like, do I necessarily, is that me? No, but they are genuinely. So we got to appeal to, like, all right, there are genuine people out there that that do fully and truly have this great self-image and self-body positivity, regardless of their size. You know, that's there. Now, should you feel bad about wanting to improve yourself? No, absolutely not, guys. The fact that you deep down have that desire to improve yourself, not just for looks, but guys, your body, if you improve your body's composition, like the way that the muscle to fat ratio, sorry, you will feel better. You'll just feel, not just because you're looking at a better version of yourself, but one, you've put in the work. So you're going to look better, you're going to feel better, and you're going to not only feel, but mentally, you're going to be tougher because you had to put yourself probably through some hell to go from person A to person B. Now, it's not saying you've changed who you are, but that mental toughness that you build up on yourself, that helps build different layers to who you will develop to be. I mean, we need to realize that, like, and always remember, and it really breaks my heart when I hear this from teenagers thinking like they're never going to change. Like, oh, this is who I am. It's like, guys, I'm 31, and while certain traits of me have stayed the same since I was, say, 14, I have drastically changed of who I've adapted. So maybe change is a very bad word, but we are adaptable creatures. Our bodies are built to adapt to friction that comes at us, to opposition. If and only if, though, we allow it to. A lot of people nowadays, we choose, as human beings, we choose the path of least resistance. Unfortunately, now in Western society, we see a lot of people really living their life complacent, very non-driven, don't take a lot of initiative, aren't really just reaching out and grabbing the day, grabbing a goal. It's almost like goals and aspirations are feared, are like they're scary. Guys, life is hella scary. You do not, tomorrow is not given to you. That's why today is a present. That's an old phrase. Okay. But we need to set goals. Like me, okay, 5 weeks from now, I'm doing an online bodybuilding show to be shredded. I have no idea what that's going to look like. Also, in the next 3 to 6 months, I'm pushing my business in a direction I've never taken it before, guys. That's freaking scary. My family, by the time this airs, my wife might have made the post about it. We just found out we're pregnant with our third kid.
Congrats,
so
man.
yeah,
Wow.
thank you. I've been wanting to tell somebody that's like outside of the immediate family. But
Hell yeah.
that's
I'm sorry.
scary.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. As you see, guys, we're doing our best to make this like as G or PG as possible.
Yeah.
Because life is scary, and who you are right now as a young adult, trust me, you are not going to be the same person even when you probably hit your early 20s if you do it right. So go for that degree. Go for that job. Go, go ask that girl out that you think is a 10 and you're like a 4. Dude, just freaking send it.
Yeah, go for it.
You have to realize, for me, and I may seem super outgoing right now, guys. I may seem like I can talk to anybody and everybody, and I typically can. I was not that person growing up. I was super introverted, and I'm still consider myself an extreme introvert because if I don't want to hang out or talk to you, guess what? My phone's going on silent, and I'm going to the woods, and I don't want to talk with anyone. All right, which is okay. At the same time, to peel this back one layer, no matter where you are in your journey, and this is going to kind of hit because this is something like I've always like really struggled with and I've really like only very recently come to grips with it, is you have to love yourself and learn to love yourself and give yourself that grace for where you currently are. The worst thing you can do is when you're really pushing towards something is to just continue a bunch of negative talk, is to continue a lot of those negative trends, because guys, the journey is never going to be easy. nothing in life that's worth it is going to be easy. It's going to be given to you. And if there's that person, you know, that's kind of had everything given to them on a silver platter, I can tell you right now, deep down, unless they've got super good character, they are struggling with something that you'll never know about. And that's true for all of us, guys. There's, regardless of what you see on this stupid thing that, especially Instagram is all about, for me, Facebook's become like the complaining section. Like, you know, there's your complaining space. Instagram's almost because, hey, here's all the good. But the people on Instagram that really like are genuine, they're going to show you good and bad. Okay. But don't be blinded by the images and messages that are always just put forward, because everyone wants to look good. Everyone wants to sound like the best, or like they're just hunky dory and they're just, you know, living the high life or living the best, you know, day of their lives. And if they are, great. But guys, life is a struggle.
Yeah.
I fail every day at something. Well, trust me, my wife will tell you too. Like, there's a lot of pitfalls there. I got lucky. I don't know why she picked me. I'm a freaking goon. But
I feel the same way with my girlfriend all the time.
dude, well, good. That means you got yourself a 10, you know, and that's
there we go.
And personality. Personality is what puts them over into a 10, guys.
Yep.
But guys, the journey, just to come back to it, the journey's not going to be easy, but give yourself some self-love, some self-positivity, some grace in the journey, because if you don't, you're going to end up in this cyclical door, this revolving door where you're never good enough. And maybe the messaging in your head needs to be, I'm just not there yet. Not there yet. It's not that I'm not good enough. I'm not there yet. My big struggle is that, you know, things that happened in my childhood, even now, and I catch it sooner now, but I get into bits where I feel like I'm not good enough. 31, guys. I've done a lot in life and there's still a lot for me to do, but there are minutes where I'm not good enough. I didn't do it right because X person wasn't happy or didn't respond a certain way. I'm not good enough. Like, that's hard, especially when there's a lot riding on my shoulders with my family, my business, you know, this podcast even. But just realizing, like, okay, there's something to learn here and I'm just not there yet. And guys, if you have that mentality, I'm just not there yet, that means, and you keep that up, that means that you should be taking action and moving yourself forward. Move that goalpost or that yardstick. If you can just move that yardstick an inch forward every day, dude, guess where you're going to be in 5 years? Boom.
Yeah, I think kind of to bring it back to the body positivity thing too. It's always people want to love where they're at right now, and they never want to put in the work to get better. But I think it kind of comes out of like a weird place where you're lying to yourself to make yourself feel better. And I do this to myself all the time, and I see people do it all the time. But people have a hard time of really pointing out where they're at honestly, and you know, like making a critical assessment of themselves. And you know, it's if you're in a bad place and you're unhealthy and you don't feel good about where you're at, staying there is not self-love. Self-love is actually making the decision to be honest with yourself and actually deciding to do something about it and get better at it. So, you know, while it is good to love yourself and feel confident about yourself, you know, as corny as it sounds, you also need to realize that working on yourself and getting better and improving yourself is the number one way to actually truly love yourself. And kind of what you were talking about too, like, I forgot how you worded it, but what was it? Like, afford yourself some grace, or, you know, just say you're not there yet. I kind of have that same mentality, but the way I always talk to myself is I don't take myself very seriously, but I take everything I do very seriously. And it sounds kind of weird, but like, even if I don't feel good about myself in that moment, but I have something to do, that's okay. Like, maybe I don't feel great about myself, but it doesn't matter how I feel about myself, because this thing I have to do it to my best ability. And that's the difference. You know, you're not always going to feel good about yourself, and you're not always going to feel great, but that doesn't mean that you don't have things to accomplish. You don't have goals to accomplish or anything like that. So if you don't take yourself seriously all the time, but you always take what you do very seriously, you'll end up in the right place eventually. And that's always such a hard thing to realize, is that you're never going to be where your actions are sometimes. Like,
Right.
I don't know how to explain that, but
No,
like,
dude, that was good. That was really good.
mm,
To tag in with that, I think what tags in really well is thinking, not allowing yourself to get complacent. And if you're really keyed in to trying to improve yourself and to better yourself, is, oh man,
here, keep going. I'm going to go feed my dog real quick.
no, you're
Keep
good.
going though.
Oh yeah, we got the pup right there. Is guys, you gotta be thinking of that self-improvement. And I just had this thought, and then I had to write something down. But thinking of work on yourself, to knowing that there's always something to improve, that there's always something you can be doing. Don't get wrapped up in trying to do 100 things at once, or because you're going to burn yourself out. But there is always something that you can be improving and working on, even if that's one thing. Like, if I get a client that comes into me, and I have plenty of these, and initially they're coming in for workout, so that part's covered as long as I keep showing up. But they're struggling, say, with water. I was like, hey, so the one thing we're going to start moving the goal stick on here is water. We're just going to keep improving on that every day. I had a young lady. I'm still training her. And when she first started coming to me, she was maybe drinking like 2 water bottles a day. Okay, that's pretty rough, especially since she was holding like 2 jobs, helping mom with the kids, like boom, lot going on for her, and she wasn't hydrating enough. And she was wondering why her body felt bloated, things weren't processing. She always just kind of felt stuck or lethargic, or her body just ached, right? Well, I was like, hey, okay, this week I want you to try to work on getting 3 bottles a day. Okay, once she started getting 3 bottles a day and she got comfortable, I was like, okay, let's bump that to 5 water bottles, so on and so forth. But there's always something to look at, to improve upon. And as long as you have that mindset that you can always improve upon something, then you are naturally in the journey to better yourself, to be more self-developed. And the people out there that just they don't have that, it's very hard for me to connect with, because none of us have it all figured out. Like, that's just a fact. Like, nobody out there has all the answers. Some people have more answers than most, but most of us don't have it.
Yeah.
So to have that mindset of trying to kind of self-improve yourself over time, like, that is what will win you the day in life. Because there's all, like I said, guys, there's always, guys and gals, there's always something that can be better. Always.
Yeah. I think kind of to wrap up, I feel like we've hit like a million things this episode, which is great. I'm totally fine with it. I think to wrap it up, if you're at a point right now where you're not happy with where you're at, or not happy with how you feel, or you feel like you could be doing better, don't just push that down and ignore it to make yourself feel better about it. The best way to do it is to address it head on, and start working backwards, and realizing, what can you do today? Like, what's that next small thing you can do, that will take you to where you want to go. And that all comes from having an honest conversation with yourself, and realizing that if you really do want to love yourself, the best way to do that is to be okay with being honest with yourself, and working to actually improve yourself. Um, yeah, it doesn't take much to get started, and it's not always some huge monumental task. Sometimes it's the smallest thing in the world. Like, like today, my goal is just to get out of bed on time. Like, as dumb as that sounds, like sometimes that's a struggle for a lot of people. It was for me for the longest time. But really just taking that time, and having the confidence and the courage to take that one little step, and then just to do that routinely, over and over again, until you get to where you're at. But never be afraid to actually look at yourself in the mirror, and be honest with yourself, because that's the true best form of actually caring about yourself and loving yourself. So
Right. There's nothing more to add to that, but when I started my journey, I did the same thing. I just got to a point, and I stood in front of a mirror with my shirt off, and I had to let those emotions come, guys. That's a big thing. Just wrap in here too, is emotions are good things if we pay attention to them and we treat them within the right light. Fear, anxiety, depression, joy, happiness, excitement. Like anxiety and excitement, guys, are essentially similar. It's just how we frame them in our mind and how we feel about something. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to accept that like these emotions are real, but we can utilize them for our benefit. Yeah, this was awesome. You're right. We've hit a lot of really good things, but it flowed, man. It flowed, and I hope everybody else got a lot out of it. But without much unless you've got something else to any saved rounds on this.
No, you're good. I was actually saving some show notes from this. 'Cause I thought there's some good points I want to come back to later. No, I think this was awesome though, and as always, I'm glad we got back to recording one of these, and I'm excited for these to roll out and people start listening to them. So even though I had to take a break and feed my dog, I forgot forgot to give him dinner. So if he sounded like he was freaking out there in the background, it's because he was really hungry.
It's all good. All good. We love the furry animals. Anyway,
Yeah.
guys, we love you a lot. Thanks for coming and joining. We hope you stick with us for the next one. And like I said, we're going to roll into kind of principles and understanding kind of macros from here. And so now that we framed it up, we're set to go for the next 3 or 4 episodes, guys. But again, thanks again. I hope everybody has a good night, good day. Enjoy yourself. Love yourself. Tell those around you that you love them. You never know how long you'll have them. But everyone, we're signing off. Good night.
Peace.